Koei Tecmo was well known for their Warriors games, Musuo titles that form the backbone of the hack-and-slash subgenre of 3D action games. We're no stranger to seeing them collaborate with intelligence systems as they did with spin-off title Fire Emblem Warriors and main series entry Fire Emblem Three Houses. Three Houses had large maps and battalions behind every unit, just like the Musuo titles that Koei Tecmo makes. So to see them doing a Three Houses follow-up, but as a Warriors game, is both expected and exciting, how they build upon the casts and narratives of the original. You play as creator character purple-haired insert name here mercenary default name Shez, who is part of a mercenary corps that gets utterly slaughtered by Byleth von Fire Emblem Three Houses. However, saving you from an untimely death and a fifth playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses is Arval, a strange amnesiac and vaguely draconic being that shows up in your dreams and thinks that Shez is neat, and thus wants to help you get revenge on Byleth. Before that happens though, the alive Shez stumbles their way across the main lords of Three Houses who are under attack from a comically large amount of bandits. Three Hopes as a Musuo game is much more in line with Fire Emblem Warriors, with some terminology change for consistency, such as pair-ups becoming adjuncts. You run around big rooms performing flashy weapons drinks and strike tons of enemies at once, with fancy combos that possess huge range and cover the screen in explosions without tanking console performance. And yet somehow the game isn't a pushover. There are lots of powerful units for you to go up against, and you'll need to direct the units you can't control to other areas to help you seize command of the map's various strongholds. With the tutorial over and the bandits gone, the main lords of the game cannot pay you because they're students without cash right now. The church also won't pay you in cash because they're a church, but they will pay you in free tuition to save face, which is almost a solid deal considering how expensive that generally is. With Shez at the monastery as opposed to Byleth in a student role instead of a teacher's, the stage is now set for a domino effect that will cause the original story to go off the rails. Our first significant difference is that Shez is instantly a much better protagonist than Byleth. They speak, for one thing, and they're a laid-back but enthusiastic character, thus giving them enough personality to bounce off of anyone. With Arval now not being a mascot character to make up for the mute main character like Sothis was, the duo are now free to banter with each other for a ton of fun scenes, and Shez can form fast friendships with one of the main lords beginning the main story arc and eventual conflict between the three nations. Knowledge of Fire Emblem Three Houses is assumed, and Fire Emblem Three Hopes spoils everything off the bat. For example, the opening cutscene spoils stuff that was only implied in a side quest in the original game. In addition, various conversations throughout the game by some characters are reflective of lore that isn't mentioned in Three Hopes, but came up in Three Houses. The core gameplay loop of Fire Emblem Three Hopes takes the basic idea of Three Houses and tightens it. During each chapter, you'll find yourself in a base camp with activity and training points at your disposal. You can use the activity points for small volunteering duties, or meals with your allies, and use training points to boost your class level, learn new passive skills and unique attacks, or gain access to new classes. You can, from here, go to the conflict map and see available missions, take down a bunch of enemies within them to capture regions, and make your way towards the main battle of the chapter. These smaller missions will net you several rewards, often money and weapons, and resources to improve your camp facilities, but sometimes they'll include more training and activity points, allowing for variety in how you manage each chapter going back and forth between the base camp. You can sink a ton of time into this game without things getting stale. This is great, because the game has 3 main story paths with different main casts to take on. Unlike the original game, major divergences occur immediately, with enough unique flair to immediately warrant trying them all out. Each one is a whole story in its own right and can easily run you a good 30 hours each, plus. The casts and interactions between them are solid across the board, but the stories are not. The Crimson Blaze and the Golden Wildfire routes are quite good and do a lot to make up for the flaws found within their respective routes in Three Houses. I love them. However, the Azure Gleam route is a train wreck with some real nonsensical decision making to justify the same finale as the other routes. It's frankly absurd that to make Dimitri the definitive good guy of the route, they have to kneecap the entire Adrestian cast in ways that are incredibly out of character. However, you'll still likely enjoy the climax thanks to some insanely fire music and strong main characters. Even if the cast have homogeneous movesets based upon class, the combination of unique active skills and equipable attacks allows for filling out of different niches, so you can take advantage of the characters you like the most. Some characters got the obvious shorthand of the stick in terms of wider interactions, specifically Sothis and Arvel of all people. But still, they do try to make up for it with paralogs for specific other groups of characters. In addition, the overall support conversation quality has improved thanks to the under-reliance on using character gimmicks. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes is a fantastic action game that delves further into the world of Three Houses. While it's easy for anyone to pick up, it's definitely aimed at veterans who have extensive knowledge of the original, but you'll get some just as ample playtime. Of course, it's a Warriors game, so expect everything that comes from that genre, which is a non-issue really, because this game is so good. Noisy Pixel is giving Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes a 9 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Noisy Pixel's group dedicated to bringing you guys the best news, reviews, previews, and more. Please stick around by ringing the bell and subscribing if you haven't already to stay up to date on all of our future content. And y'all in the comments, let us know who your favorite Fire Emblem Three Houses characters are, because there are a ton of them, especially considering the bonus ones. Oh god. Just list your main 4. You can use 4 main characters per map. I generally lean towards like the classic address tier comp. We're talking like Shez, Hubert, Edelgard, Monica. They're so fun. But then I have to somehow squeeze in Claude and Marianne and Constance and Mercedes and Jaritza.
Noisy Pixel.